The forgotten princess, the sky over Valerian Prime was clear, until the alarm sounded. Red lights flashed across the Royal Sky Palace. The guards rushed to battle stations. Elite soldiers stood at every gate. Something was coming. A single ship, old, damaged, faint royal codes on the hull, but outdated by 20 years. Queen Illyria stood at the top balcony. Her long silver cloak blew gently in the wind. She watched the ship land in the sacred courtyard. Her heart beat harder than it had in years. Her daughter had vanished during the uprising of Black Flame taken when she was just a child. No one ever found the body. No one believed she survived, but the symbol on that ship was clear. It belonged to the royal house of Valerian, and when the ramp opened, a young woman stepped out. Tall, strong, graceful. Her skin shimmered with soft lavender tones. Her long silver white hair blew behind her. Her eyes glowed like stars. And yet, it was her, Illyria. The queen whispered. It was her daughter, the one who had been lost for 2 decades. But she was not alone. Behind her walked a man, a human. He wore simple armor, stained with old battle marks. His face was calm but alert. His hand rested gently on the small of Illyria's back, not in control, but in protection. Gasps echoed from the palace guards. The high advisor stepped forward and hissed, "A human." "Here?" Illyria's eyes flashed. "He is my husband." The entire courtyard fell silent. Even the queen couldn't speak. Her lips trembled. Her hands shook. Then slowly a tear rolled down her cheek. Inside the palace, the air was tense. Illyria walked beside Jacob, her human husband. The alien nobles watched with cold eyes. The queen walked behind them in silence. At the throne hall, the doors closed behind them. Only a few trusted council members remained. Illyria stepped forward and knelt. "Mother, I have returned, not to take power, but to return as myself." Queen Illyria did not move. She stared at Jacob. "Who is he?" Illyria stood. "This is Jacob. Solon. He saved me, raised me, fought beside me. I love him." The queen's voice was quiet. "You were taken by rebels. How did you live?" Illyria closed her eyes, memories flickering. "I escaped the rebel base. Hid on a ruined world called Gara 4. I was dying. Jacob found me. I was weak. I had forgotten my name, but he stayed. Every day, he fixed my wounds, taught me to survive. He never asked for anything." She opened her eyes, and when I remembered who I was, he didn't run. He stayed. The queen looked at Jacob. "Why did you help her?" Jacob spoke for the first time. His voice was calm, deep, because she was alone, and no one deserves to die alone. That night, in the royal guest wing, Illyria sat on the edge of a velvet bed. Jacob stood near the window, watching the stars. "They don't trust me," he said. "They won't," Illyria replied. "Not yet." He turned. "Should we have stayed hidden?" Illyria looked down. "I couldn't hide forever. She's my mother." "She's also a queen," Jacob said, "and you are a princess." Illyria gave a small smile. "Not anymore. Now I'm just a woman with 2 worlds in her hands, and neither one fully trusts me." Jacob walked over and gently touched her cheek. "I trust you." Illyria leaned into his hand. Her voice broke. "That's why I came back. For her, but also for you. If I lose both, I lose everything." Meanwhile, the queen stood alone in the royal library. She held a small locket, a gift she gave Illyria as a baby. Inside, the picture was old and faded. She remembered the nights she cried, holding this locket, believing her daughter was gone forever. Now she had returned, but with a human man the nobles would never accept. A man from a species considered too wild, too emotional, too human. Could she accept him? Could she risk the throne? Tears fell again, silent and soft. She had her daughter back. But nothing would be the same again. The human she chose. The next morning, the royal court gathered, golden walls of the throne. Rooms shimmered with power. Nobles from every province filled the seats, tall, elegant, proud aliens dressed in glowing robes and jeweled armor. Whispers filled the air. At the front, Queen Illyria sat in silence on her silver throne. Alira entered with Jacob beside her. Gasps rippled again across the court. A human, standing in the queen's hall? Unforgivable. A noble lord stood up and shouted, "This is a royal chamber. No outsider may walk here." Guards stepped forward, but before they could act, Alira raised her hand and her voice. "Touch him, and I leave this world forever." The entire room froze. Her tone was clear. Not a request. A command. Jacob looked calm, but his hand hovered near the small weapon hidden beneath his cloak. He wasn't here to fight, but he wouldn't die quietly either. Queen Illyria finally stood. Let them pass. The court went silent. Alira. And Jacob stepped forward. The queen's voice echoed through the hall. "Tell them who he is." Alira looked straight ahead. "This is Jacob Solon, war survivor of the outer colonies, former engineer. Fighter, my protector, my husband." Gasps again. A noblewoman hissed. She bonded with a human. She violated the law of the veil. "The law of the veil," Alira said sharply, "was made to protect the royal line. I'm alive because of him. He is my choice." Queen Illyria said nothing. Her eyes studied her daughter. Then Jacob Solon, she said softly. "Why have you come to Valerian?" Jacob stepped forward. "Not for power, not for favor, only because she asked me to stand beside her." "And if I order you to leave?" Jacob looked at Alira, then back at the queen. "Then I will leave. But she will come with me." The room erupted in shouting. "He threatens the throne. An insult to our ancestors. Banish them." Queen Illyria raised her hand. "Enough." The hall fell quiet again. I asked a question. He gave an answer. He does not kneel like our kind, but he does not lie. She turned to Alira. "Why him? Why not one of our own?" Alira's voice trembled. "Because when I had nothing, no name, no memory, no future, he stayed, he held my hand. When I was too weak to move, he taught me that love is not power. It is presence." The queen looked down. Whispers returned. Nobles angry, confused, scared. A princess who returned not as heir, but as a rebel of the heart. Later that evening, Jacob stood alone in the quiet courtyard. Alien stars glittered above. The air smelled like silver trees and burned oil. Footsteps. Approached. It was Lord Vexer, an old noble dressed in blue crystal armor. "You're brave," he said, circling Jacob, "but foolish." "I've been called worse," Jacob replied. "She was meant to be queen. You'll take that from her." Jacob looked at him. "I never asked her to choose, but she did." Vexer leaned closer. "She may love you, but this world will never. Follow her while you walk beside her." Jacob's jaw tightened. "Then we'll find another path." Vexer smiled. "And if that path leads to fire?" Jacob stepped forward, steady. "Then we walk through it together." Inside her chamber, Alira stood by the mirror, her fingers shaking as she removed the old royal necklace from a velvet box. The same necklace her mother wore when Alira was a child. She placed it around her neck, then turned as Jacob entered. "Are you okay?" he asked. She shook her head. "They hate you." "I don't need them to love me," he said. "I just need you to not walk away." "I won't," she whispered. He walked to her and gently held her hand. "You're not the girl who was lost. You're something more now." She looked up at him. I'm a bridge between two worlds, and both of them are shaking. He smiled. Then let's build something stronger. Royal blood, human bond. The palace halls had changed. Since Alira's return, silence followed her steps. Servants paused. Nobles turned their faces. Even old family friends looked away. She was still royalty. But now, with a human by her side, she was also a threat. That morning, Queen Illyria called her daughter alone to the royal garden. The place had once been full of glowing blue, flowers and silver singing birds. Now it was overgrown, quiet, forgotten. Do you remember this place? The queen asked. Alira looked around. I used to play here, hide under the crystal trees. I thought it would always be mine. The queen nodded. It was, until you vanished. A pause. Then she added, you brought him here, into our bloodline. Do you know what that means? Alira's eyes burned. I didn't bring him into your bloodline. I brought him into my life. You are still part of this world, the queen said. This throne, this legacy. Alira stepped closer. Then why does it feel like I never belonged to it? The queen didn't answer Dot in the eastern wing. Jacob sat in the empty dining hall. The food in front of him was untouched. Every noble had refused to join him. Even the guards gave him cold stares. He looked down at the table. He didn't belong. Here, the chairs were made for beings taller than him. The ceiling glowed with stars he couldn't name. The language on the walls felt like a warning he couldn't read. Then a sound. Soft. Steps. Alira Dach. She walked in and sat beside him. No one. Came? She asked. He shook his head. Doesn't matter. She took his hand under the table. It does to me. He gave a small smile. Are you sure? I'm not one of them. You're more than they ever were to me. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something small. A ring, worn, old, handmade, from their time on the ruined world where they survived together. Put it back on, she whispered. Jacob looked at her. Here? Now? She nodded. You're my bond, no matter who watches. He slid the ring onto his finger. At that moment, the doors opened and 3 nobles walked in. They froze at the sight. One whispered, she's claiming him publicly. Alira stood up and said clearly, yes, I am. The nobles left, whispering louder. Jacob sighed. You just made 1,000 new enemies. Alira smiled softly. Good. Let them see I don't hide my heart. That night, Queen Illyria stood in front of the Hall of Ancients, a place only rulers may enter. Inside were glowing images of past queens. Each figure watched her silently from the walls. She bowed her head. My daughter has returned, but she is not the girl I lost. She is stronger now, wiser, and bound to someone who should not be part of this world. She looked up at the glowing statues. Tell me, should I protect her legacy, or let her follow her heart? The room gave no answer. Just silence. In their private chamber, Alira looked. Out the balcony window, the stars above Valerian glowed faintly. Jacob came behind her and wrapped his arms gently around her waist. You still thinking about the garden? He asked. No, she said. I'm thinking about tomorrow. What's tomorrow? She turned to him. Tomorrow I speak in front of the court. I will tell them what we went through, how I survived, why I chose you. Jacob looked worried. They won't like it. I don't need them to like it, she said. I just need them to listen. He nodded. And held her closer. Because, no matter what came next, they had each other. Assassins in the hall. The palace lights dimmed early that evening. Storm clouds passed over Valerian's twin moons, casting shadows across the marble towers. Guards moved slower than usual. Some corridors stood strangely quiet. Too quiet. Jacob sat in his guest chamber, sharpening a small combat blade. Old habit. His instincts had kept him alive on many worlds, and tonight those instincts screamed. He stood and scanned the room. Shadows moved behind the curtain. Too fast, not wind. He reached for his sidearm, but it was already too late. A dark figure dropped from the ceiling, blade in hand. Jacob twisted, dodged. The assassin slashed, missing his throat by inches. Furniture broke as Jacob rolled behind the table, flipping it over for cover. The attacker moved like a ghost, silent. Fast, precise. Jacob locked a strike with his arm, gritting his teeth as the blade sliced through his sleeve. Blood dripped. The assassin lunged again. Then a pulse of energy knocked the attacker into the wall. Sparks flew. At the door stood Alira, hands glowing with pale blue power, her eyes burning with fury. "Get away from him," she growled. The assassin turned and ran. Alira didn't hesitate. She chased. Jacob staggered to his feet, grabbing a plasma knife from the wall. He followed. The chase tore through the outer halls of the palace. Alira moved like lightning, her powers slicing doors open, her feet light and fast. They cornered the assassin in a glass hallway overlooking the starlit gardens. "Take off the mask," Alira commanded. The figure refused. Jacob raised his blade. "Do it." Finally, the attacker removed the mask. She was Valerian, a noble bloodline, pale gold skin, royal tattoos. "Who sent you?" Alira demanded. The woman smiled bitterly. "You should have stayed dead." Before they could question her further, she bit down on something in her mouth. Her body collapsed lifeless. A self-poison capsule. Silence returned. Later, in the queen's chamber, Alira stood before her mother. "She was one of yours." Alira said. Queen Illyria's face was pale. "Not with my permission. Then someone in your court wants me gone, or Jacob dead, or both." The queen looked away. "The court is filled with fear. You brought something new into an old world. That always brings enemies." "Then protect us," Alira whispered. "You are strong." "You never needed my protection." "I do now," Alira said. "Not for me, for him." Queen Illyria looked into her daughter's eyes. She saw it then, not just rebellion, not just romance, a real bond. Real love. And for a moment, the queen's heart softened. That night, Jacob sat by the window, bandages on his arm. Alira sat beside him. Quiet, he finally spoke. "You saved me." "You've saved me 100 times before," she said. "This was just one." He looked at her hand. She took his. "I'm not leaving," she said. "No matter what they try. If they come for you again, they'll learn what happens when a Valerian princess is angry." Jacob smiled faintly. "I'm already learning." She leaned her head on his shoulder. Outside, the stars flickered. But inside, the human and the lost princess were closer than ever, and neither of them would back down again. The blood oath room. It was just before dawn when Queen Illyria sent for her daughter. No guards, no advisors. Just a silent message. "Come alone." Alira followed her mother through the deep halls of the palace, places she hadn't seen since childhood. Down stone staircases, past locked doors, into the oldest parts of Valerian. The air turned colder. Dust filled the corners. Finally, they stopped in front of a giant black door made of metal and bone. Strange symbols pulsed across its surface. Alira touched the center. The door opened with a low rumble. Inside was a round room glowing red. And on the walls holograms of every queen in Valerian's long history. All watching. All silent. This was the Blood Oath Room, a place where truth was revealed. And betrayal was punished. The queen walked to the center of the room. "This is where I took my oath to protect Valerian," she said. "Where my mother took hers. and where traitors were judged. Alira looked around, uneasy. Why bring me here? Queen Illyria stared at her. To ask you one final time, will you renounce the human? Alira's eyes widened. No, she said. Never. The queen's face darkened. If you take the blood oath with a human bond, you will destroy royal bloodline. The throne cannot pass to one mixed with earth. Alira's voice shook. Then the throne will change. Valerian does not change. The queen shouted. Alira stepped closer. Then it will die. The room fell silent. The walls flickered. The old queens on the walls seemed to glow brighter. Listening, Alira walked to the center and stood where her mother once did. I take the blood oath, she said clearly, with him. The queen whispered, You would do this? Yes. Even if it means exile? Yes. Even if it means war? Alira didn't blink. Yes. Back in the upper palace, Jacob stood with 2 guards blocking his way. Let me pass. He said calmly, Orders from the queen. You stay here. Suddenly, the floor shook. Red energies surged through the walls. The guards stepped back, frightened. From the stairwell, Queen Illyria and Alira appeared. Both silent. Alira walked straight to Jacob. And in front of the guards, she kissed him, long, deep, without fear. Then she turned to the queen. I did it, she said. The oath is sealed. The queen stared at them. Long moments passed. Finally, she spoke cold and slow. You may remain in Valerian. Jacob and Alira exchanged a glance. But if one drop of royal blood falls because of you, I will end it myself. Alira bowed her head. Jacob nodded once, and the queen turned and walked away. That night, Alira stood alone in the royal garden. The glowing trees shimmered again, as if they heard her oath. Jacob joined her, silent. Was it worth it? He asked. She took his hand. I don't know what tomorrow brings, she said, but I know you'll be there. And if they come again? He asked. She smiled. Then we fight again. Above them, the stars of Valerian blinked like eyes watching, waiting. And far away, in the dark corners of the galaxy, someone else was watching too. The day of fire. The skies over Valerian turned black by noon. It was not a storm. It was a fleet. Hundreds of rebel ships broke out of deep space, sharp, dark, and fast. Their symbol, a burning eye inside a red circle. The mark of the shadow. Rebellion, a group believed destroyed years ago, but they were alive and angry. Inside the palace, alarm screamed. Guards rushed. Cannons charged. Queen Illyria stood on her balcony, eyes wide. How did they come so close without warning? She asked. An officer shouted. They bypassed outer sensors-cloaked ships, my queen. We have minutes. On the palace landing pad, Jacob was already in armor, his old gear from the outer colonies. Alira joined him, wearing a deep blue royal battlesuit, glowing softly at the seams. This is no coincidence, Jacob said. They waited until we were divided. Alira nodded. They know I took the blood oath, that I chose you. Now they want to burn everything down. A message echoed across all channels. Hand over the traitor princess and her human, or we turn Valerian to ash. Inside the war chamber, nobles argued loudly. Give them the human. Sacrifice the daughter. Save the capital. She broke the code. Let her fall. Queen Illyria stood slowly, slamming her hand on the glowing table. No, we are Valerian. We do not kneel to terrorists. But your daughter, she is my blood, the queen said, and he is her bond. That makes him ours. The battle began. Sky cannons roared across the upper towers. Explosions lit the atmosphere. Rebel dropships pierced the shields and landed in the lower districts. Fires spread. Jacob led squads of elite guards into the chaos. He moved like a ghost fast, smart, deadly. His earthborn training shocked even the alien commanders. Alira fought beside him, her energy blasts bending light, her eyes glowing brighter than ever before. They moved as one, covering each other, protecting each other, not as lovers, not even as soldiers, but as equals. At the edge of the royal walls, a rebel general stepped forward. His voice echoed through loudspeakers. Alira of Valerian, daughter of the High Queen, you chose a human. You dishonored the stars. Come forward. Face justice. She stepped onto the wall. Jacob beside her. No, she shouted back. I chose love. I chose truth. And you are nothing but cowards in broken ships. The general raised a hand. Dozens of cannons locked onto her position. Jacob whispered, They'll fire. She nodded. Then let them. But before they could, Valerians. Main cannon fired. A pulse of light ripped through the air, striking the rebel flagship. The blast sent fire raining from the sky. The rebels panicked. Ships scattered. The Queen's voice came through the palace channel. Hold the walls. We fight until they beg for peace. Hours later, the battle was won. The last rebel ship fled. Smoke filled the sky. Bodies lay still across the lower courtyards. But the palace still stood, and on the balcony, Alira and Jacob stood side by side. Armor cracked, their faces dirty, but their hands still held each other. As Queen Illyria stepped forward to speak to her people, she looked at the pair and gave a slow, quiet nod. She didn't say thank you. She didn't show emotion, but in Valerian, a queen's nod was everything. The queen's final choice. The fires still burned in the lower city, but in the palace, there was silence. Every noble, every soldier, every servant gathered in the Hall of Stars, waiting for the Queen. Valerian had survived a rebellion. But now came a harder question. Who would lead it forward? Queen Illyria entered the hall slowly. Her silver robes flowed. Behind her, torn at the edges from the battle, she walked alone, carrying the royal flame staff, a symbol of command passed down through 1,000 generations. She stopped at the center and looked at the crowd. Then at Jacob, standing near the side wall, and finally at her daughter, Alira, stood tall, bruised but proud, her eyes fixed on her mother. The queen's voice rang clear. My daughter has returned. Not as a child, but as a warrior. She stood by this world when others hid. She bled for it, fought for it, and chose to love someone not of our blood. She paused. Many nobles whispered. The queen turned to Alira. Do you still choose this? Human? Alira stepped forward. I do. Even if the throne is denied to you? I didn't come for a throne, Alira said. I came for my people and for him. The queen looked at Jacob now. You? Jacob Solon, earthborn, survivor, protector. You had no place here, but you earned one. You stood when others ran. You saved what many would have let burn. Jacob didn't speak. He just nodded once, strong, steady. Queen Illyria raised the flame staff, and to everyone's shock, she laid it at Alira's feet. Gasps filled the hall. You will be queen, she said, not because of your blood, but because of your choices. Then she looked at Jacob. And you will not be a king, but you will be something greater, her shield, her balance, her anchor. Tears filled Alira's eyes. Jacob stood still. The queen stepped forward and embraced her daughter. Softly, fully, for the first time in 20 years. She whispered, I missed you every day. Alira broke. She cried in her mother's arms, and just behind them, Jacob watched. Not with pride, not with ego. But with peace, because love had brought Alira back. And now, It was love that would carry Valerian forward. Epilogue months passed. Alira and Jacob ruled together, not with fear, but with strength and compassion. Earth envoys were invited to the royal court. Old laws were rewritten. A new age of unity began, alien and human, side by side. Many still whispered, many still judged, but none could deny this. The queen cried when her daughter returned, but she did not return alone. She returned with the one person strong enough to stand beside her, and gentle enough to hold her hand. And in that truth, Valerian changed forever. The end.